Durlabha manava janama satsange. Durlabha manava janama satsange. Haravo ekava
Shravana Kirtana Smarana Bandhana Pada Sevana Tasyade Shravana Kirtana Shravana Kirtana Smarana Bandhana Pada Sevana Tasyade Shravana Kirtana Bhojana Sakitana Matmani Vedana Bhojana Sakitana Bhojana Sakitana Matmani Vedana Govinda Dasa Dila Sare Govinda Dasa Govinda Dasa Dila Sare Govinda Dasa Bhaja Hare Nanda Srinadana Ganga Nabhaya Sarana Bhavindare Bhaja Hare Nanda Bhaja Hare Nanda Srinadana Ganga Nabhaya Sarana Bhavindare Bhaja Hare Nanda Bhaja Hare Nanda Srinadana Ganga Nabhaya Sarana Bhaja Hare Nanda Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana Jamuna Tira Vanasari Jamuna Tira Vanasari Jaya Gopi Dhanavallabha Girivara Hari Jai Gopi Dhanavallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanasari Jamuna Tira Vanasari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Gaura Premanande Jaya Vishapad Paramahamsa Sri Radhika Stotra Sapta Sri Simad Divine Grace Sri Bhagavad Gita 8.5 Bhakti Raghava Swami Sri Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Skandibiti Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda ki Harinam Sankirtan ki Grantaraj Bhagavatam ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. All values to be assembled devotees. All values to be assembled devotees. All values to be assembled devotees. All values to see Guru and to see Gauranga. All values to see Prabhupada ki. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jananjana Salakaya Tatsudandalitam Jaina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namamo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Desatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. There's a second short mantra that you may kindly repeat, a little less known, but important in the context that I will touch upon. Om Sarabhyay Namaha. Om Sarabhyay Namaha. Om Sarabhyay Namaha. Mukham karoti vasaram pangum langayate girim. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. I'd like to begin by congratulating everyone who is present here this evening, because it's a weekday. I know it's not always so easy to get away and to come and attend some program. It's a challenge to come even once a week on Sunday or Saturday, depending on most temples. They have Sunday program on Sunday. Some temples have Sunday program on Saturday. So, very happy to get an opportunity to visit a long-standing temple here in Malaysia, here in Kuala Lumpur. I'm just winding up a 3-month tour I was mentioning a little earlier. This happens to be the last temple before going back to India. So we will hear, as we normally do and as we normally should be doing on a daily basis, hearing something directly from our Shastra, our favorite Shastra, of course, as given to us by our founder, Acharya, as Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, are both Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, as explained in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Yantasto Vadrani Vidunati Sritsatam. All of us have been wandering in this material world since time, as they say, immemorial. We have forgotten. And due to our, forgetfulness of our actual nature, primary nature, forgetfulness of our identity. We have engaged in so many material activities, and especially whenever we have attained this human form of life, we've engaged in many adharmic or sinful activities for which we have become in so many ways contaminated. So hearing on a regular basis is what we call one of the prescribed spiritual duties. Bhagavad Gita speaks a lot about prescribed duties. It's a very interesting theme, very important one as well. And it's only when we come in contact with, spiritual persons, and in particular when we are fortunate, especially fortunate to come in contact with the process of what they call Bhakti Yoga or devotional service, we come to know more directly, more specifically about our spiritual prescribed duties. And human form of life is, of course, not complete and cannot be successful without knowing about these prescribed spiritual duties. But what we often are less understanding is that in addition to spiritual prescribed duties, or in one sense for us it's probably better to refer to them as prescribed Vedic duties, and even more specifically prescribed devotional duties. We also have, and this is less known and less understood in modern day society, in general society, and even within or amongst our devotee society as well. We also have prescribed material duties. It's a very interesting and involved subject matter that I'd like to touch upon a little bit, but first we will hear from Bhagavad Gita, from chapter 8, text number 5, very well and often quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada. So those who have access can follow. It's 8.5, and those who have read Bhagavad Gita a few times will remember this verse. So you can repeat after me. Anta kale chamam eva smaran bhukta kale varam yat prayati samadbhavam yati nasyatra samshayah antakale chamameva smaran mukta kalivaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nasyatra samshayah antakale chamam eva smaran bhuktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nasyatra samshayah. So I'll go directly to the translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Kind of repeat after me. and whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Purport. In this verse, in this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree, taral iva sahishnuna. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, so that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness. Translation again. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. It is not in so many purports that we find the full Hare Krishna Mahamantra mentioned, and it is even more rare to find it mentioned twice in the same short, relatively short purport. So, this is, of course, a very important reminder for all of us. This whole human form of life has one and only one purpose, ultimate goal, and it is to remember Krishna. in various places. We were reading just in Penang, just coming from Penang a few days ago, one purport whereby it was very nicely explained that the topmost education one can have in the world is the education of Krishna consciousness. Simply to know about and to develop that consciousness, that awareness, isn't it? Of what Prabhupada, of course, has coined as Krishna consciousness. We have our wonderful temples. Just yesterday or the day before, one new center opened, I believe in Kulin, one area in Penang. Temples and centers are opening more and more by Krishna's mercy, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Every single day, so many books are being distributed, so many activities for that one single goal and purpose of facilitating, helping us to remember Krishna. And nothing else, as mentioned in the purport. Whoever remembers me alone. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada, in addition to introducing the chanting of the holy name, which of course we know is a Yuga Dharma for the sage of Kali, in addition to distributing huge quantities of books, transcendental books, that Prabhupada coined as Brihat Mridanga, an extension of the holy name. In addition to opening centers and temples in order to fulfill the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu every town and village, in addition to providing training and education in all of these centers in a very systematic, methodical manner to facilitate and enable each one of us to advance in that science of remembering Krishna. Srila Prabhupada also had a desire that this is in connection with prescribed duties. In the beginning I was referring to prescribed Vedic duties, prescribed spiritual duties. Srila Prabhupada also wanted us to revive the Vedic lifestyle. What do we mean by Vedic lifestyle? Of course, one may say Vedic lifestyle is chanting Hare Krishna, associating with devotees, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, these are all aspects of the Vedic lifestyle. But one dimension, one aspect of the Vedic lifestyle which is forgotten to a large extent in modern day society. Actually, the whole modern day society has, in a very major way, we could say, taken us away physically from various duties and occupations which are meant to actually facilitate and help us remember Krishna. I'm referring to, of course, the Vedic lifestyle that has been especially demonstrated to us by none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who appeared 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan. Of course, we all know this. We all know about Vrindavan village. but we generally, as devotees, we like to think about Vrindavan, because Vrindavan is helping us remember the wonderful pastimes, the wonderful exchanges, the wonderful loving exchanges that Krishna displays, isn't it, in their full extent, in the different rasas, culminating in the Rasa Lila, which is, of course, concealed and hidden in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and which can only be appreciated fully when we systematically go through the first 9 cantos of the Bhagavatam. But there are 2 specific aspects which we generally kind of skip. Skip means we know a little bit about it, but I would say not sufficiently. In the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, the Vedic science of economy and the Vedic science of education, I would say, is hidden. Is hidden in the sense that if we actually understand the Vedic science that Krishna reveals in Vrindavan, if we actually understand the Vedic economy that Krishna also shows us, not only Krishna but all the residents of Vrindavan, then we would be introducing and also following that Vedic economy and that Vedic science, Vedic education. I'm referring, of course, to the whole village lifestyle. One of our major problems in the world today, and one of our major problems for us as devotees also. And this was spoken about and written about as well in various purports of the Srimad Bhagavatam, of the Bhagavad Gita, by our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada. When we speak of Krishna consciousness, which is, of course, always bringing us back, when we speak of Krishna consciousness and our ability to be able to remember Krishna not only at the end, antakale, at the end of life, ante narayana smriti, Bhagavatam also explains, at the end of life, perfection is to be able to remember Krishna. Our ability to remember Krishna, of course, what is stressed here especially is our constant, incessant, actually Prabhupada uses the word incessant. Incessant means practically non-stop activity of chanting the holy name. But what is also helping to mold our mind and facilitate our ability to remember Krishna is our lifestyle. And Prabhupada wanted us, and this is a point which is largely missing. Prabhupada actually, on a number of occasions, and this is recorded as well, indicated that actually 50% of my mission has yet to be established. What is that 50% of Prabhupada's mission? To actually introduce the Vedic culture in terms of varnashrama. And varnashrama has to do with the 4 basic, we could say, eternal Vedic sciences. I mentioned 2 of them. There are 4 basic Vedic sciences that are unknown today in the world, that are unknown today in the material world of karmis, and that are largely unknown in the world of Hare Krishna. Believe it or not. Specifically, these two we can relate to more easily. Education. When we say that Krishna, or the pastimes of Krishna Vrindavan, are to help us understand the science of Vedic education, what do we mean? Because most of us, those who are devotees, those who have been reading these transcendental literatures, we know that Vedic education is Gurukul. Of course, even there we are, how many Gurukuls do we have within our society? Gurukul has been a major area of contention, we could say. We know that Gurukul is meant to be the Vedic system of education, but what we very often don't understand or don't know is that Gurukul education is only for training individuals to actually become Brahmanas, who specialize actually in cultivating knowledge to become teachers. But there's a whole other dimension. There's a whole other dimension of Vedic education which is unknown to the majority of our devotees and to the world. If it's unknown to devotees, it's unknown to the majority of the world. And I'm talking about the type of education Prabhupada refers to the activities of Krishna and Balaram. This is nicely explained in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. You can make a mental note, or you may even want to write it down. 10th canto, chapter 11, verse 37. That whole chapter actually describing Krishna's daily activities. 10, 11, 37. And when I came across the purport of that verse some years back, for me it was like an eye-opener. When we read actually Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, we come across different statements that are more meaningful, that we might have read before, but we didn't quite catch or understand. So in that purport, Srila Prabhupada elaborates on this whole topic of education, because education is the key. Education is the key to actually become Krishna conscious, both individually and in terms of society. So in that purport, Srila Prabhupada explains how the Vedic education for the vast majority of young boys, when Krishna reaches the age of 6 or 7, that verse is explaining, he is given the responsibility of looking after the small calves. Now we may think, what does looking after calves have to do with developing Krishna consciousness? Well, it has a lot more than we generally think or understand. Why is it that the presence of cows in our lives, why is it that the presence of cows in the lives of people who are actually following the Vedic culture is so important? We fail to understand why Krishna has arranged or made this system, this sacred lifestyle. There are many things within our Vedic culture, practically speaking, everything is sacred. The institution of marriage is sacred. The activity of looking after cows is in many ways sacred because cows are sacred. It is explained how in Kali Yuga, Kalu Shudra Sambhava, in the age of Kali, we're all born Shudra. Shudra means in the mode of ignorance. But do you know that actually, but do you know that actually cows are not born in the mode of ignorance or the mode of passion? Cows are in the mode of goodness. Cow is the only animal in the mode of goodness. And Krishna's plan is that Vedic lifestyle, Vedic culture, village lifestyle, which is meant to be the standard, which means naturally the presence of cows is meant to help us at least come to the mode of goodness. Because we cannot so easily come to the devotional platform unless we are in the mode of goodness. And the mode of goodness, of course, means following the 4 basic activities that prevent us from engaging in sinful activities. Or in other words, Prabhupada said, mode of goodness means following the 4 rules and regulations. Strictly following the 4 rules and regulations will automatically, very quickly, bring one to the mode of goodness. And as explained in the Bhagavatam, evam prasanamanaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Evam prasanamanaso, when one is following these 4 rules and regulations, when one becomes situated in the mode of goodness, when one reaches the stage as described by Sri Raghava Goswami, nista, ado shraddha tatu sadhu sangha bhajanatya, anartha nivriti nistha, steadiness, then one's mind becomes peaceful, and one in a peaceful mind can begin to engage in activities of devotional service. Evam prasanamanaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha. And it is only when we begin to engage in activities of devotional service to the level of purity that we are practicing devotional service, then Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. This Bhagavat Tattva, this level of Vijnanam, not just Jnanam, knowledge, but realized knowledge. How to apply, putting into practice the knowledge that we receive from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Then, mukta sangasya jayati, we become liberated or freed from the gunas, the modes of material nature. We become actually firmly situated. So, in the last, so many years, within our ISKCON society, there are so many activities. There's so many areas of service that we can undertake. It's important for us to visualize. We could say to visualize Srila Prabhupada's vision, to understand Prabhupada's vision, how to systematically introduce Krishna consciousness. Where are we meant to go? We all know we want to go. We're meant to go to Goloka, to the spiritual world. But we can more easily, more quickly go to that spiritual world when we follow Krishna's system, not only in terms of spiritual system and spiritual prescribed duties, but also when we know about and put into practice and follow Krishna's material prescribed duties. And prescribed duties in terms of education is connected with village life. Spiritual material duties in terms of economy is connected with village life. And the closer we come to taking up our spiritual duties, our spiritual prescribed duties, the closer we come to taking up our material prescribed duties, then more easily we'll be able to remember Krishna. As a matter of fact, Srila Prabhupada mentions in many places, both in the Bhagavatam and in conversations, that to facilitate our becoming Vaishnavas, to facilitate our becoming Krishna conscious. This material arrangement within Varna and Ashrama that Krishna himself has given to humanity will make it easier for us to actually be able to remember Krishna. I mean, what are the activities that are going on in the spiritual world? The activities in the spiritual world are what Krishna has revealed and demonstrated in Vrindavan, isn't it? So the life of Vrindavan is not simply something of the past. The life of Vrindavan, the lifestyle, what we call agrarian lifestyle. Vedic culture is based on agrarian lifestyle. And modern society is leading us away more and more from that agrarian lifestyle. And that means that we are being led away more and more from the Vedic values. We're being led away from what is meant to be actual education, actual economy, isn't it? And for that matter, actual governance. That's another science. So therefore, this point is very, I would say, important. Our ability to remember Krishna, of course, is based on the chanting of the holy name. At the same time, we can more easily chant the holy name when the environment is more conducive, isn't it? Modern day environment is much less conducive. It's when we come to a temple we can experience a more conducive, we could say, atmosphere, or when we are in the assembly of devotees. Just imagine when people are living together as Krishna has created. Krishna has created this lifestyle, has given, it's one of the important gifts of nature. There are three gifts of nature, again, that are unknown to most of us, definitely unknown to modern day society. But those three gifts of nature, beginning with Mother Cow, Mother Nature or land, and also knowledge, cultivation of knowledge, are absolutely essential for any country, any nation, any community to actually advance. So this is all connected actually with this fourth, we could say, phase that Prabhupada referred to in terms of introducing Krishna consciousness. And there are some nice developments in that respect. Maybe tomorrow morning during Bhagavatam class, for those who are able to attend, it's not so obvious, but one of our communities, you'll be happy to know, in Hungary, quite well-known community called Krishna Valley, that is under the guidance of His Holiness Sivaram Maharaj. Just a few months ago, they've been developing their community there for the last probably over 25 years. They have maybe 50 or more families. They have about 200 devotees. And they have been striving actually to help manifest this fourth, we could say, phase of Prabhupada's movement to show us actually practically what are meant to be the prescribed material duties for all of us. So there is one European Council responsible for promoting more natural type of lifestyle, equal development, they call it equal village. And this council, which is responsible for the whole of Europe, has actually awarded a certificate recognizing Krishna Valley as the most advanced and important self-sufficient community in the whole of Europe. It's quite substantial. So in other words, when, these are ordinary people, we could say, but they can see, they can understand that devotees are living a lifestyle which is very conducive for respecting nature, because environmental concerns are a major issue in the world today. We are destroying our environment. We're destroying practically everything, the way we are living, because we are forgetting what is meant to be the more natural lifestyle. So this is important to think about, and I was mentioning a little earlier, my cell phone, yeah. I'll just finish on this point here. If there's any comment or question, we can take a few minutes. In the last few months, I've been actually trying to address this whole aspect of lifestyle and prescribed duties. And there's one particular book which is a compilation of all of the major statements made or given, spoken and written by our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada. The name of the book is called Speaking About Varnasrama. And so this book has recently, quite recently only, been made available in digital form, and it's available here on this card. This is what we call a digital card. If any devotee would like to have access not only to this one particular book, there are a number of books, and there's all kinds of information in regards to, let's say, Varnashrama development. And these books are available in 10 different languages at present. We're trying to increase so that more people can have access to these books. So you can approach this devotee here, Damodar Prabhu. He can show you how to. It's very simple. You just need to basically touch it to your cell phone, or you can scan the QR code that is there. I encourage devotees to connect and to get this information, which is more easily available. One particular devotee has made this book into digital form just a few months back, actually, and so it makes it much easier for us to hear. One of our main problem for all of us is we're not in the habit of sufficiently and regularly hearing topics which are of importance. In general, of course, spiritual topics, devotional topics, which are discussed in Prabhupada's books. And more specifically, we are less aware because we've not sufficiently heard what Prabhupada has to say in terms of Varnasrama Dharma, and therefore my humble request is that devotees can take advantage of this opportunity which is there, and so after the class that will be available. We can take a few minutes for any possible comment or question that might be there. Yeah. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, you mentioned there are four sciences which are not known. You mentioned that there are four sciences that are not known to the community. One of it is the education, the other is economics.
Yeah, the four, these are referred to as four Chatur Vidya. In Sanskrit it's called Chatur Vidya. Chatur Vidya are the four standard, we could say, eternal sciences that are there in the Shastra that help make up a community, a nation. And so the first one is called actually unvikshiti, which refers to the science of philosophy, which is taken up by those who generally go to Gurukul, because it's quite involved, it takes many years. We do a lot of this as devotees as well. I mean, Dikshiki is connected with yoga, with Sankhya. So Sankhya is in the Bhagavatam, yoga is in the Bhagavad Gita, like that. That's the first of the 4 sciences. The second science is called Trayi, which is the science of education based on 14 specific books of knowledge. These 14 books of knowledge are referred to in the purports of the Bhagavad Gita by Srila Prabhupada. The third science is called Dandaniti, the science of politics, for training leaders within society, basically for training Kshatriyas. The fourth science, which is, all of them are important of course, the fourth science is called Varta. Varta means the science of economics. And the science of economics, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, is unknown to most of the people in the world, including our devotees, because that science of economics is based on Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaishya Karma Subhavajam. How many of our devotees are involved in those activities? Isn't it very few in modern day society? So the point being that, we have some understanding of what is required to become a pure devotee of Krishna. That's all described in the nectar devotion. And we know that it's not at all easy to become a pure devotee also, but even though it's not easy, we know that unless we become a pure devotee, we're going to be stuck in the material world. So we continue to endeavor and strive to make advancements toward becoming a pure devotee. So that's on the spiritual level. On the material level, Krishna has given us a system which is connected with Varna and Asrama and a lifestyle. And that lifestyle is containing this science of economics, which is connected with village, with cows, with land, with these 3 gifts of nature. And the point I'm making is that unless we also know about what is meant to be the material ideal way of living, and unless we strive to actually reintroduce, which was and remains one of the goals and objectives of the Krishna consciousness movement, then we will be struggling, isn't it? We will be having, as we have now, an imbalance between what is called spiritual swadharma and material swadharma. So for us as a society, for us as individuals, to actually come to the ideal situation, ideal position, we need to understand these 2 levels of dharma. And we need to strive to reintroduce, revive these 2 dimensions, we could call it, of dharma. Not an easy task, but this is the mandate that has been given to us by Sri Prabhupada. Yeah. So these are explained actually in these books that you'll find here. Any other? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. This is about community, village community living. First question is land size an issue for community living? Can a community live within half acre of land, or has it to be a minimum, say 10 acres? That's the first question. The second question is...
Let's go one by one. Okay. So you're asking about the size of land to create a community? Well, there's a whole science on this. For example, when Prabhupada was speaking about the Hyderabad farm many years ago, that was quite big. That was about 700 acres of land. But Prabhupada mentioned, for example, that even there is like 5, 7, 8 families, they can each have their own temple and create a community within that larger community. So you'll find in India, for example, there are villages that are having maybe 50 people. You have villages that are having 50,000 people. maybe not 50,000, because that gets into like city, but you have small villages, you have larger villages. There are studies and there are guidelines also, which we find in the Shastra, that give us, let's say, approximately an ideal number of families, because once you have that number of families, it becomes easier to provide the various things that are needed, let's say, within a community to strive for self-sufficiency. So there are some guidelines for that, and Prabhupada did say, as a general guideline, 1 family, 1 acre of land, or 1 hectare of land, and 1 cow. And one can meet a lot of one's basic necessities by following those basic guidelines. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. The second question is on community living.
Yes.
The rules rules for community living. It's not easy to live together as a community.
Yeah.
The realities. So, how is there like a screening process on who joins the community and what happens if a member of the community goes off? Yeah.
Right. Well, that's of course a very important subject matter. There are guidelines. We have come out, for example, with a guide manual for establishing communities, basics, and we can find more information in various writings that are there. To a large extent, I mean, there are some general guidelines, and then there will be some more specifics, which will depend on those who are creating a community. So best is to be in communication or in contact with those who have already established communities or who have been working at establishing self-sufficient communities. They may have some things in writing already. So just like we have, I'm part of a community in Canada that's called Sharanagati Village, and they have some basic, they have a whole structured administration, and they have some basic guidelines, and people, well, every community will be somewhat different, but the basic principles need to be, I would say, common, in keeping with what is described in the Shastra, but there will be some variation according to the members who are leading that particular community. So once again, thank you all very much for coming this evening. I know it's maybe a little unusual, but yeah. And don't forget about getting this card.
Okay, do it, Maharaj. Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you can demonstrate. So when you taking Mahaprasad from Maharaj, you just pass your phone and some magic will happen.
Yeah. He can
That happened to my phone today.
Happened.
So just try it, give your phone, and put a card, magic will happen, and you can see all the wonders inside it. So, thank you very much,
Yes,
Maharaj.
I will.
Can we chant one full mantra for Maharaj? Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for the wonderful explanation of the Maharaj Ashram system. And also, tomorrow morning we'll have the Bhagavatam class at 8 o'clock. Maharaj will be also giving the class. So please, in the morning, please attend and get the full benefit of association.